In this video, I'm going to be reinstalling the Fox shocks rebuilt by Texas Shockworks. To keep things short and sweet, I'm only going to be showing you the installation of the passenger side, rear and front shocks. All steps can be repeated for the driver's side. Oh, a little bit too much. So while I'm down here, I'm just going to tighten the screw hand tight here. So this is a 15 millimeter and 18 millimeter on the back. Okay, I'm going to use my 15 millimeter on my torque wrench. Tighten it to 66 foot-pounds. Okay, same thing on the top. Going to tighten this 15 millimeters on the outside bolt and 18 on the inside nut. So my torque wrench, 66 foot-pounds with a 15 millimeter again. I'm going to be reassembling the passenger side shock and spring assembly. I have my spring marked when I took it off. Here's the top new spring isolator, which is rubber. And we just have to make sure that it's aligned here, and also has a little notch that we can align with the spring cutout, like that. Here's my shock that I got back after it's been rebuilt. During shipping, this perch here kind of got knocked loose a little bit, so I need to actually make sure that this is facing the proper direction. And there's a little tiny retaining screw, and there's a little hole for it here, and I noticed that I'm actually missing the screw. So I purchased a new set of these kind of tiny little retaining screws, and it takes a T10 to be able to tighten this. I'm just going to get this started here, and I'll share the part number in the description. Alright, I'll just kind of leave it loose, and then I will take this safety cover off, and I need to figure out which direction I want my shock to face. So it's only going to fit one way or the other, and so you have to decide which way you want that to face. And then we'll have to make sure that this perch here is adjusted properly. I need to make sure that it's also sitting properly against this retainer, which currently is set up for a mid perch. If this ring were sitting right here on this bottom position, that would be the lower perch position. Make sure that's all the way down, and then we're going to decide which way this needs to turn by reassembling it temporarily here. And I've got to make sure that this is sitting properly against this end of the spring, like that. Since this is the front of the spring, this front should be dead center, and this also has to be just right to fit. So that looks correct. Where the perch is sitting right now is actually pretty good. Looks like it's actually moving on me a little bit. Let me get this out of the way and make sure this is pressed all the way down. Now I'm going to tighten this screw keep it from turning and moving on me. Okay, so let's put this isolator in. Make sure that it's just touching the end of the spring there properly. Insert the shock at the right position so that it fits or like that. We'll make sure that our mark, which is the front of the spring, matches up with this isolator. I've got my top spring mount, and I have a mark here as well for the front. I'm going to put my new upper bushing in, and the flat part sits like that and goes over the shaft there. And let me just make sure all the marks are aligned. Alright, so now I'm ready to compress the spring, so I'm just gonna set these things aside for now. And I have my spring compressors here, so I'm gonna spin this out a little bit. I'm just gonna put these springs directly across from where my mark is, so here and there. And I'm just gonna make sure I still can get on it. Yep. Okay, so I've got my mounts opposite from one another, and I am going to slowly start tightening each side up again. There we go. So that looks good. As you can see, there's enough threads showing. Go ahead and put my top nut on. And remember to try to make all of these marks align. Make sure this is seating properly. And as you can see, now that I've tightened it down, this is no longer aligning. So this mark and this, it's like turned. All right, so I've made sure that everything's adjusted. This now is straight. I've got my marks aligned. I'm gonna start relieving the pressure from these spring compressors, but make sure that that nut is started very good on those threads before you release the pressure. And then I'll torque this nut down to its final value. I let off all the pressure. We currently have the nut on there on a few threads, but now we need to make sure this is torqued properly. And as you can see, the mark is still in line with the shock here, facing that direction straight out. I'm going to use my 17 millimeter and torque the top nut down to 41 foot-pounds. And in order to do this, this is going to want to spin, so I'm just using something like a long screwdriver and just putting it through the hole like that, keep it from spinning. Okay, it's starting to get tight. Okay, so once it's torqued, this is about what it'll look like. You'll see about 6 threads on the top here showing, and we should be ready now for reassembly. So I need to get this whole assembly lifted up into the shock bucket. Now there is a bracket up here along with another metal piece that I've marked, so that I have to make sure that everything aligns here as well. To get a little bit more room, the tie rod here, you know, it's still loose, so I'm going to take that off. And right now this is just hanging by the bungees. And need to turn it a little bit. Okay, so I think it's in the holes.
Okay.
There. Now the third one might be too hard to get to. So I'll take my glove off so that I can feel the bolt better. Okay, so we had to lower the shock just a little bit so that we could get the 3 nuts started through this metal piece right here, which we marked. And then there's another bracket on top that needs to be placed over those 3 studs. And we've got our nuts behind that tightened by hand, and now we're going to tighten it down using a 15 millimeter, and the torque's going to be 30 foot-pounds. This one we may have to tighten from the inside. So next, this has to be placed down into the lower control arm. So at the moment, this hub is being held up by this bottom jack, but it's also suspended by these hooks here. So we're gonna have to get these hooks off in order to be able to push down. So the first thing we'll do is start taking off these bungee cords. Just be kind of aware not to drop this knuckle because it's gonna put stress on your brake line up here, so always try to hold it up here on this left side. And I'm going to have Jessica help me with this, and she's going to kind of hold this while I detach these bungee cords. Okay, so now we basically need this blue bracket off. Pushing down on this control arm here, and now we have that off. Now the only thing that's holding us is the jack stand at the bottom.
Okay.
So we're lowering.
As you can see here, I was struggling to get the bottom of the shock into the lower A-arm. This was due to the new bushing that was a little bit wider than the original, so I used a hammer and a 2x4 to persuade it into place.
Okay, so I'm going to be tightening the lower bolt to the shock here. This is the bolt and the other side has the nut. So I'm going to put a 30 millimeter socket on this side and 27 on this side. And I'm going to use my impact in the automatic setting so that it torques it down loosely, not tightly yet. Now I got it in setting 2, and I have to torque it down to how much? I think it's 406 foot-pounds, but since I don't have a reading with my tool, I need to hold my trigger down in this setting for 8 seconds, I believe.
Now that I have the strut assembly loosely in place, I went back through the engine bay to put the final torque on the nuts of the strut assembly. Here I'm torquing each one down to 30 foot-pounds.
Alright, so the next thing we need to attach is the upper control arm back to the knuckle. Jessica has the lift here underneath the lower control arm, and I'm going to have her start lifting slowly, and I'm just going to make sure this doesn't fall over up here. I'm trying to get this blue thing off. Yeah, go ahead and jack it up. Now it's lifting it. Alright, so Jessica has it started, and to keep it from spinning, I'm going to put a 10mm on the center shaft here, keep it from spinning, and then put a 21mm to tighten the nut here. Okay, so now it's starting to tighten just a little bit, and now I can start to torque this down. So now I've got my torque wrench, 21mm, and I have to apply 85 foot-pounds of torque. So now I'm at a point where I can reattach the bracket that's holding the air line, brake line, and the ABS line. There should be a hole where this metal piece fits into, and the screw is a 10mm screw. Take my gloves off, makes it a little bit easier. And this one is a 8mm screw. I'll start with this 8mm. The other one is a 10mm. Okay. So up here on the upper control arm, on the A arm here, we've got this hole, and we used to have this fastener hold the air hose, but that broke off. So I'm going to snip off the old one, being careful not to snip the air hose. It's very dry. And I've got a replacement, and this is a fir tree zip tie, and it's just basically one of those Christmas tree push pins that's attached with a zip tie that goes around like this. I'm just going to push that through, put the air hose in, and then pull the zip tie like that and snip off the excess. Now this fir tree zip tie is made by Avery Dennison, which is the manufacturer that Ford uses for much of all of their fasteners. So I'll try to put the link to this part where I got it on eBay, because if you're taking this off, it's most likely going to break off. But there's a few other fasteners on here as well that are the same. So I want to go ahead and take off my sway bar link, and this is the bottom nut here. So I've already taken off the top one, and so in order to get this off, to replace the link, I need to just remove the bottom one. So I have my 8mm for the shafts, keep it from spinning, and then this is an 18mm open-ended wrench. Now that that's loose, I should be able to pull out the bottom and disconnect my sway bar link. And then here's my new one. So I'm gonna stick this into the sway bar first and then insert the other 90-degree angle bolt. That. Reattach my nut. Again, I'll put my 8mm on here to keep it from spinning, and my 18mm to tighten. All right, it's starting to tighten up now. So here's the sway bar, here's our sway bar link, and I've already fed this through. Now I just need to put my nut on, start this. It's 18mm here, and to keep it from spinning, it's a 10mm. Oh, this is 8mm. Okay, it's starting to tighten on me. So this needs to be torqued down to 59 foot-pounds. So does the other nut at the bottom. I'm using my torque wrench with a crowfoot. Now I have it at a 90-degree angle, so it's going to use the exact same torque setting of 59. That doesn't change anything. But if you were to change it in the direction, you'd have to recalculate it. Just make sure it's back in the 90-degree position. There we go. So that's done. Now I got to torque the bottom one as well. So this is going to be torqued down to 59 foot-pounds, and it's an 18mm. Just going to put this nut back. So now I'm going to tighten up the nut on the outer tie rod, and that attaches to the knuckle here. So the inner shaft, to prevent it from spinning, you can put on a 10mm like that, and then 21mm for the nut. Okay, so that's starting to tighten up now. I'm ready to torque it down to 85 foot-pounds. So we're ready to reinstall the wheels on the front. So we'll start on the passenger side. I'll just start a couple of lugs by hand, and then we'll start tightening it down in a star pattern. Now, when I get it fairly hand tight, then I'm starting to kind of rock the tire with my feet a little bit, just to take off the extra slack. Okay, that's about as much as I can do. It's pretty good. Now, I'll tighten these lugs as much as I can by hand, and then we'll do the final torque when the entire wheel is on the ground. So since the wheel is moving on me, that's why you can't do the final tightening yet. So you're just gonna try to get it somewhat tight. And we're doing this in a star pattern, so we're just alternating sides as we tighten. Okay, that's as tight as I'm going to be able to get it while it's up. So now we're just going to go over to the other side and also put the wheel on with the lug nuts, get it as tight as we can, and then we will lower the truck and do the final tightening. Just again, tightening these by hand first. All right, I think that's pretty good. Tighten these in the star pattern as much as I can, but obviously this is going to rotate again, so just try to get it a little bit tight. Okay, now we are ready to lower the truck on both sides. So I'm going to have Jessica lift the truck up just a little bit using the jack, and then we'll take these 6-ton jack stands out from underneath and slowly lower the truck, and then we'll do the final torque tightening to 150 foot-pounds. I'll go ahead and have Jessica lift the truck ever so slightly so that we can take out these jack stands. Okay, go ahead and let that down very slowly.
Is it off?
Yep, it's off now.
Ready?
Yep, go ahead and lift it. Okay.
Coming down?
Yes. I like these jack stands because they have this safety pin, which some of these other 3-ton jack stands don't have. So that guarantees that this does not fall down on you. So I think you have to take out the safety pin here on the side and then pull this out. And now if the pin is out, that's when you can pull on this lever, which lowers that. So pin is really nice to have. So now that we have the wheels on the ground, we can go ahead and torque to the 150 foot-pounds of torque. Again, I'll do the tightening in a star pattern. Okay, now off to the other side. Okay, that completes the jobs. It's been a while since we've had this storage facility. It's been several weekends now. It's been a long time coming, but we finally have this job done. It's been a very hot one, so dealing with the 100-degree temperatures inside this building is pretty harsh, but yeah, it's definitely worth doing the job in a storage facility, being out of the sun. So highly recommend the shade and lots of air movement. So, well, if you liked the video, leave a thumbs up, leave a comment, and subscribe if you want to receive notifications for future videos. As always, see you next time.